2 weeks ago was the anniversary of James Dean's death in a Porsche 550 Spyder in California. Today we're going to discuss that tragic accident as well as the technology that has improved over the decades to help us. Alex, you're surprisingly not saying much today.
Today's Road Testament, James Dean. Let's get started.
Thank you.
One of my favorite movies is a movie called Crash, David Cronenberg. This is a really weird movie, one of his lesser-known films. It's James Spyder, it doesn't matter who else is in it, and it's about people who are obsessed with celebrity car accidents. And they actually go out and recreate celebrity car accidents, and the mythology of some of these car accidents just compels them, they're just obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And James Dean...
One of the most legendary car accident deaths I think there is in the world.
To be clear,
he's outside of Princess Diana.
The most legendary celebrity car accident death.
Yeah.
And there have been a lot of celebrity car accident deaths, but for some reason, this one has become maybe the most legendary, and the anniversary of it was just a few weeks ago.
If James Dean was alive today, I think we'd all find him to be the coolest guy in the room. He was driving, he was a race car driver. He was driving a Porsche 550 Spyder, which is, in my mind, one of the best sports cars ever made. I think that's why we kind of are obsessed with this story.
Well, let's be clear here. The reason people are obsessed, really, with James Dean is because he was one of the best-looking guys who ever lived. People like me, idiots like me, buy glasses that he wore so we can look cool. And because every girl that we liked in college really wished that he was still alive and young, and they were dating him instead of us.
Yeah.
So, but what makes this particular accident and the anniversary it's so strange is that that the mythology around his accident is so much greater than his career, which is very short.
Yeah.
Than his racing career, which is very short.
Yeah.
And let's talk about a little bit.
Okay, so
the movies he was in: Giant, East of Eden, and
what was it?
The other one. It doesn't matter because he only made 3 films and he got an Academy Award posthumously.
Yeah.
Which is weird. And then he died at age 24. This kid lived in Santa Monica. He smoked some pot. He was actually a pretty down-to-earth, normal guy. And he bought a Porsche 356.
He had a 356, then a 550, and he had a few other race cars, a few other sports cars at that time.
And he actually was doing pretty well in his early races.
Yeah.
Right up until the accident that killed him.
And the funny thing about this was he was notorious for having that street racer mentality. He actually did a PSA, pretty much PSA against street racing a few weeks before his actual death, where he died on the street. Now, let's give you some history. He was on his way up.
By the way, the movie was Rebel Without a Cause.
Rebel Without a Cause,
The fact you don't know that just proves how young you are. But go on.
Shut up. I actually did know that. Let's go through some of the history. So James Dean was on his way up to Salinas, California. He had stopped at Sherman Oaks to fill up. There's a famous photo of him, which we probably can't use because of copyright reasons.
Then he got a speeding ticket.
He got a speeding ticket on the way up in his 550. He was driving with his mechanic. And then at sunset...
Who had a funny name.
I don't know. He was driving.
Go on.
He was driving into the sun at around 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, down current Route 46 towards Salinas. He was heading westbound into the sun when another car...
Cadillac?
I don't have it here.
Large sedan.
A large sedan, Donald Turnipseed, took a left into his path, and they crashed. He spun twice. James Dean's mechanic was ejected from the car. There was some confusion as to whether James Dean was driving or not because he had been pushed to the passenger side. I think much of that debate has been debunked.
No, it hasn't.
Okay. And from that point, that's pretty much it.
Well, here's the interesting thing about this accident, which is Donald Turnipseed, who was driving eastbound, should have been able to see Dean coming.
Yeah.
Even if Dean didn't have his headlights on, he should have seen him. Now, does that make him culpable? The police did not arrest him. They didn't even cite him at the scene of the accident.
Yeah.
Now, Dean, on the other hand, was heading into the sun, and probably could not have seen Turnipseed oncoming.
He may have seen him, may have not. Don't know if the lights were on. Don't know. There's a lot of details missing.
Controversy A has to do with who was driving and whether or not they could have avoided the accident.
Yeah.
All right.
The other controversy, there's another part of this whole equation is after James' death, the car that he was driving, the 550 Spyder, the engine was sold, the transmission was sold to racers, the chassis was used as exhibits for road safety around the country.
By the California Highway Patrol.
Well, actually, a few people. The car ended up in Florida for a safety demonstration, and then after which point it was loaded onto a truck, went to California. Doors open to the truck in California, the car is gone. To this day, we still don't know where that car is, where the 550 chassis is at all. Some say that it was parted out, others, I don't know.
But none of the mystery surrounding the car has anything to do with the mythology of the accident itself and who was responsible. And if there's anything to be learned by assigning responsibility. You know, Rolf, was it Wutherich?
The mechanic, yeah.
The mechanic.
His mechanic who was going to the race with him for Esselina.
Right. Who allegedly drove the car, spent the rest of his life depressed, developed a drinking problem, and actually died in a drunk driving accident some years later.
Yeah.
And received hate mail from thousands of fans the remainder of his life, people who blamed him for the accident, as if, had he been in the driver's seat, the accident could have been prevented.
Yeah.
Had, say, James been in the seat instead. So people blamed him. Turnipseed, strangely, did not receive as much hate mail and focus as the mechanic, which is very odd.
Yeah.
Now, I would venture to say that because the sun was, in the eyes of the driver of the Porsche, that the accident probably could not have been averted. And if anything can be said about the accident at all, forget James Dean as an actor. This seems to be one of those rare two-car accidents where one cannot truly assign blame to either driver.
Yeah.
But the police at the time did not put it on Turnipseed. It was just an accident. A true accident, according to the definition of the word.
Yeah. Which gets us to the point of all the new technology in cars these days. A lot of people complain about how cars are no longer driver-focused. There are too many safety features, too many technologies.
The complaint is cars way too much because of all these safety
Well, not only that, if a lot of people complain that they're not actually driving cars anymore because of all these safety improvements that have been implemented to make sure that certain instances like this don't happen again. So...
Well, it doesn't weigh anything or cost much to have daytime running lights in a car.
Well, no, but
that.
We have everything from lane assistance to if a driver falls asleep, the car wakes him up, to radar so that you brake if an object gets in front of you. Look at Mercedes. Now, the question I pose to the audience is, wouldn't you rather have those technologies to save your life in the case of the James Dean accident? And I know the 550 Spyder was not necessarily a safe car, but at the same time. An accident had happened.
I know where you're going with this.
Preventable accident.
Usain Bolt's accident.
Yes.
It was 2009.
Yeah.
The guy was driving barefoot in the rain in Jamaica in a BMW M3 with two girls in the back, walks away.
Yeah. Well, Usain Bolt, BMW gave an M3 after the Olympics.
Actually, it was Puma, but that's okay.
Okay, Puma gave him a BMW M3, and similar incident where driver lost control, crashed, and there have been several celebrity deaths, and we're just using Usain Bolt's incident as an example.
Are you saying that we should be grateful that Usain Bolt made it when he deserved to die in an accident? It was clearly his fault.
No, I'm looking at. Stop it. I'm looking at the safety technology in place that. He literally walked away from an accident where the car flipped over end over end, and two other people in the car sustained minor injuries, when some may say that was a worse accident than what happened to James Dean. Higher speeds, worse accident.
Look, I'll be the first to say it. I love my 87 Targa. It weighs just over 2,000 pounds. Okay,
more than that, but yeah.
No, 2,500 pounds.
Okay.
It's got a 212 horsepower. No safety equipment. A blast to drive it. But it would fold like an accordion, worse than a 550 Spyder in an accident, no doubt. But I will say that I'm terrified to drive it at night. Terrified to drive it if I've had 2 Red Bulls.
Yeah.
And in the rain, forget about it.
Well, this is where we pose a question to the audience of, though all these technologies are here, they're not going away, there are still cars out there that can give you a proper driving experience.
What's the question?
Well,
I've got a question for the audience.
All right.
Okay. Why should we give...
What? Why should we give what?
Even 5 minutes to the topic of James Dean.
Why?
I'll give you my theory.
Okay, why?
Okay? I'll tell you what the real question is. What is the lesson to be learned from the death of James Dean? It has nothing to do with the movies he might have made or the fact that some girl in college liked the poster of this dead guy more than she liked me. He's one of the few celebrity deaths, and one of the maybe only celebrity car accident deaths that has a real lesson in it. A real lesson. Ryan Dunn, God rest his soul, I knew him. He was a good guy. Died because he was driving drunk. Dumb. People do it every day, and until someone you really love dies that way, you're probably still going to have a drink, get in a car. But James Dean's death was actually just an accident. One of those truly tragic things you can't foresee. Like jaywalking and surviving, yeah. But getting hit by a car running a red light when you're crossing on a green. Truly an accident, even when you follow the rules. And that is why his death has this mythology around it. The guy knew how to drive. He was in a great car for the time. He was on the way to a car race. And his career ended. A proper driver. And his career potential as a racer, as an actor, ended by no fault of his own. Mm-hmm. And I think if you get into Porsche Boxster today, and you compare that to a 550 Spyder. I mean, my mom drives a Boxster. I'm not making fun of Boxsters, but she drives that. I bought it for her because I knew it actually was a safe car, and the 550 was not. And James Dean, if there's any legacy in my mind, I could care less about his movies. I've never seen any of them, but
oh no, you have.
I have never seen a James Dean movie, but I can honestly say that the first thing I think about him when I think of him is he died in a car accident, and every Porsche that comes out of the 2000 today is probably a little bit safer because he died in that car that day. You have another reason? I'd love to hear it. And don't say rebel without a cause, unless you're a woman.
That's a good episode.
Next week?
No, don't. If you say Gumpert, I'll
Gumpert convertible prototypes. Safe or unsafe? You decide on the Road Testament.
Ow, we're living in the fast lane, baby.